race we're going after is creating health homes out of affiliates, right? You go into affiliate because this is where the actual behaviors you need to be healthy happen, and the support structures there to maintain those behaviors.
Welcome to Behind the Knowledge, a best hour podcast where we dive deep into the lives and stories of inspiring coaches from all walks of life. The two hosts of this show are me, Pat Barber, and my good friend and fellow coach, Todd Acuto. Each week, we'll sit down with the most amazing coaches we can find, uncovering their unique paths, the challenges they've faced, and passions that continue to drive them. Whether you're a seasoned coach, an aspiring one, or simply somebody who likes listening to stories of how people achieve the success that they have, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by the powerful stories and insights from the world of coaching. This is Behind the Knowledge. Let's jump in.
All right, welcome back to Behind the Knowledge. Pat Barber, still a clown, and we are with my man, Mike G.
Still a clown.
Still a clown. This guy, original CrossFit OG legend. I know there was a time when people thought you invented the butterfly pull-up.
It'll still find its way to me to this day. Like, not as often, but every once in a while, it's like, oh, you're the guy who invented the butterfly pull-up. And I got to go through the whole thing.
You're like, I didn't invent it, but you saw me on camera doing it more than the original guy did, so that's
right.
it.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, we just had Andy we had Andy Hendel on.
Yeah.
And I remember the very first gig I went to with Andy Hendel was
Yeah.
at CrossFit Charlotte.
Yeah.
We did a max height box jump at that.
Yeah.
We
Spencer.
also did some other stuff where we were like doing some GHD, and you did a workout that was overhead squats.
Oh, goodness gracious.
And
That's
thrusters.
a great video.
Was
overhead squat thrusters?
because it was Fran, but
overhead squat pull-ups.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Overhead squat pull-ups. My bad.
I remember that video with Tony. Tony's talking through it, right? Of
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
is this worse than the thruster?
Nicole did it somewhere else, but we compared our times to Nicole's time.
Yes.
I hit myself in the head.
Yes.
But
on
then
the way up on the barbell.
re-snatched it.
Ka-dunk, and then picked it back up again.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my first interaction with you.
Oh, what a good impression. Yeah. What was the best thing about that one was how Tony replayed it over and over again in the middle of the video. It's like, tink. And you can hear the barbell, pink, pink, pink. And then finally I get overhead, and yeah, those were the days.
Dude,
those were the days.
Yeah. Early day, big time fire breather athlete.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
But
Well-
yeah, when I start beating you in the open, we got issues. We got issues.
I think the thing is, though, like when you look at a lot of the people from those days, the people who have evolved and who have grown are the people who I love spending time with. Like when I hang with you, I mean, we've known each other since then.
Yeah.
But when we can sit down and talk, it's like, it's wonderful because
Yeah.
like we're such different people.
Different. Goodness,
than
so
those times.
different.
Thank goodness.
Thank
goodness.
Thank
Wow.
Thank goodness.
I was talking to somebody. Who was I talking to? I was talking to Leah. Leah
Okay,
asked me
yeah,
about
yeah.
this yesterday because I was like, man, thank goodness I didn't grow up in the days of social media. But you know, in our 20s, social media really started to get big. And every once in a while, Facebook likes to remind me of something I posted at 27 years old. And I'm like,
Speaking
wow,
of that, I still have your picture of your
Delete.
first ever CrossFit workout, the box jump.
that's a good
Box
one.
jump workout.
I'll keep that on there.
Yeah.
When I'm like this.
Anyways, yeah, this isn't just a podcast to reminisce. For
Oh, goodness.
Thank
I thought it
goodness.
was.
But we want to hear about your coaching journey. I first saw you as an athlete, but met you and interacted with you as a coach and flow master on the seminar staff and working there. So obviously you started coaching way before maybe not way, but before you started working on seminar staff. So tell us about that. Where'd your coaching journey start?
You know what's interesting? I think the idea of coaching and working with people started in the military, right? Okay. So just training in PT and leading PT and that kind of stuff. And then getting out of the military, I actually coached track and field a little bit at an elementary school level.
Did you have background in that?
I did not, but
Okay.
my sister was 15 years younger than me, and she was in school at a private school in Tucson. They needed an extra coach,
and I
went in there and started coaching.
How old are you?
25, 24.
And
you were old enough. You'd been in the military. You could speak with
And
authority.
I ran triathlons at the time. I was like
Okay.
145 pounds, so I just taught people how to run.
Yeah.
I was the running coach.
Yes, you were.
So that was interesting. Moved back to Atlanta, and a buddy of mine that I went in the military with was like, dude, you have to come into the gym. Now I had done CrossFit before in the military, but I did it like I didn't understand it.
You
Like,
did a version of what you thought it might
so
kind of be.
let's say it was wall balls and burpees. I was so used to the old school way of training. You do like set of wall balls and go to the water fountain, drink some water, go do some burpees, go to the water fountain, drink some water. I'm like, it's not that hard.
Same.
Same.
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody's talking about. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went to CrossFit Atlanta, probably 2005, 2006, where I really understood what CrossFit was about. First workout, fight gone bad, as prescribed, which
I've got the pictures.
Those are the pictures.
Oh man, I love that.
Laid on the ground for like an hour. I was afraid to drive home because I thought I'd get pulled over for drunk drive. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of, I might throw up at any moment. But then I was hooked, right? So I was like, I want to figure out how to do this. And Dan McDougall, who owned CrossFit Atlanta at the time, owned it for many years. I went to him. I said, hey, man, I'd love to help you build your gym, build your business. Because at that time, I mean, do you remember though? You worked there, right?
It was a club. Yeah.
Well, not only was it a club, it was like he was renting someone else's garage. It wasn't even his garage. He was renting somebody else's garage, and it was dusty, and it was dirty, and there were chains hanging, and there was a cigar box. And you just kind of threw some cash in there if you had some. If not, just work out. Like it really wasn't a business. And I was like, but I saw this, and I thought, man, there's definitely something to this.
Yeah.
And there were people in there, and they were training really hard, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And that kind of sparked it, right? And I was like, okay, well, if you can give me a scholarship to a level 1, I'll help you grow this business.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that relationship started. But at the time, it was so small, I needed to find another coaching gig. That's where I met Mr. Chuck Carswell.
Yeah.
So I started working with Chuck Carswell as a coach at a completely different organization and company before CrossFit.
I don't think I knew that. I don't think you guys knew each other. And so what was that? Was that when he was at the other gym?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were what? You were personal training? So not necessarily coaching a group, or
it was
was
group training.
Okay.
Yeah, it was group training.
So how'd you meet him there? Like you just like looking in Craigslist and?
So no, I just gosh, how did I find out about Sans? That's a great. I think. I don't even know.
That's wild.
I actually have no idea. I don't remember.
Had he done CrossFit at that point? Do you know?
So the guy who started Sans, Matt Hunt, was a CrossFitter.
Okay.
So they kind of threw in some CrossFit-like stuff.
Okay.
But it was also traditional, like, training as well, right?
Yeah.
So, but what would end up happening is we'd have these meetings, coaches meetings, when they'd bring coaches in from other areas. And Chuck was at a different gym in Georgia, in Atlanta at the time. We would all come into the Decatur location, and we'd have these coaches meetings, and then we'd do the workout. The workout was always a CrossFit workout.
Yeah.
And Chuck crushed it, And Chuck and I became friends there, and I was at CrossFit Atlanta. I'm like, man, you got to come in here and start doing CrossFit more. And he started doing CrossFit more, and he started coaching in, and I remember. I know this is kind of going off topic.
This is
perfect. This is exactly topic.
But it was funny because one night, it was after maybe the last class at CrossFit Atlanta. Chuck's like, man, I want to talk to you. He came over and he was like, look, do you think there's something here? I'd love to try to get on staff. I'd love to try to work. And
were you working on staff at CrossFit Atlanta? Is it what he's saying?
No,
on seminar
I was
staff?
on seminar staff at that point.
Oh, so
you're skip the piece. Skip the piece.
So let's go back.
So I started CrossFit at Atlanta. I needed to make enough money to coach
so
CrossFit, so I'm doing Sans.
So then we started to really build up momentum at CrossFit Atlanta, and I just went full CrossFit Atlanta.
Okay.
So there we are, right? Got my level 1, coaching there.
Where was that at? Did you do the level 1 in Atlanta, or did you travel?
I traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
So drove up there. All right, so let's go through all this. Drove up there, and I remember going through that level 1, and then I remember driving home and calling. So many people.
Yeah.
It was like, you guys don't understand.
Whatever you're doing, it's wrong, and I'm going to tell you exactly what's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like this is and like half the stuff that was said, I didn't even
you didn't
fully
even
understand.
comprehend. Yeah, it took me like a year on staff giving the lectures before I even understood most of that stuff.
But it sounded amazing, and the experience was great. I'm like, whatever they said is right.
Dude,
I don't know what they said.
You guys have been doing it all wrong. Yes, 100%.
So that kind of sparked I jumped full force into CrossFit Atlanta. But okay, so then at the time, Dan, he had a really good relationship with Greg, and he would bring a lot of equipment to seminars that were happening along the Southeast.
Because they needed extra equipment. Okay.
Yeah, because the
Nobody
gyms,
had gear.
nobody had gear for, and the seminars were huge, right?
Yeah.
You had 15 coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all the
80
participants.
70
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like nobody had that many medicine balls and PVC pipe or barbells and that kind of stuff. And they didn't happen as often as they do
Yeah, it
now.
was
so
like,
it was like
once every 3 months or something, right?
Exactly.
Or, yeah.
Once a month it got to, and that was even big. So I started helping bring equipment,
Okay.
right? So I'd bring equipment there, I kind of hang out, and I'd watch things, I'd got to get involved. And then slowly it was like, hey, do you want to like help coach the pull-up? You know, and I'm like, yeah, you know, you want to help coach this? And then you want to do your level 2? And it kind of all just happened without me understanding what the heck was actually happening. Right?
And I feel like that was a journey for a lot of people. Was like, this is just amazing. I want to be a part of it. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna watch.
Yeah.
Go buy the coffee if you need me to buy the coffee.
Totally.
Put away the rings or hang them up if you need me to.
That's
And
it.
then as you do it through osmosis from seeing all these great coaches, you start to figure out what you're doing.
I mean, that's essentially the foundation of an apprenticeship, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna watch. You tell me what you need.
Yeah.
I'll hold the pen for you while
Yeah,
you go
yeah,
do something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
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 It was 100% an apprenticeship, like
Yeah.
a true apprenticeship. And then turned into kind of a level 2, which I didn't even fully understand. It's not the level 2 now.
No.
It's not
Right,
what
right.
I didn't even fully understand what I was doing. But I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
I'll do it. I'm in.
And then I'm coaching and stuff, right? And
How much were you coaching at CrossFit Atlanta at this time? And were you
all
still
day-
at the other
all
gym?
day long. It was like old school ways
Oh, yeah.
of coaching. You know, it was like
15
me
hours a day. Yeah, you just
all day.
in. Yeah.
Come in there, I'd coach,
And
like do 17 workouts.
coach
Yeah.
a class.
But
Work
they're
out
not
with the class.
where I was gonna say, I was just
Did
going
you
to
work out with the class or no?
absolutely worked out with the
Of course
class.
he did.
All the time.
And what was your coaching actually like? Was there any
Oh,
actual coaching, or was it kind of like,
gosh,
here's the
man.
workout, here's what the movements look like, I'm gonna warm up, you guys warm up too, and we'll start the clock together?
I'll bet you he like would look at people and be like, "That's not it."
Right, but,
Well,
but
here's
there was no
also-
like layering things or anything.
There was
like
no,
that.
there was not, well, yeah, layering points of performance. No, I mean, I was still learning those
points of
things
performance, yeah, yeah.
myself, right?
Right.
Because think about the accessibility, you know, to knowledge at that time. Like now, you want to learn about the snatch? Well, we have 17 articles, you know, whatever it is.
Go to the knowledge, and you got every video of high-level coaches coaching whatever you need.
Everything you need. Back then, like you check YouTube or something, it's like some old video of an Olympic coach that's, you know, it's like you couldn't find
It was
real ways.
one video on .com of Sage Bergner, right? Doing one movement, and you're like,
And-
oh, bar goes from the ground overhead, I
like
got it.
2005 or 6. Like I don't even know if it was that. A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
There was a series that Mike and I did the Bergner warm up together,
Yeah.
where I was wearing those like electric shorts. They were like
Electric?
blue. They were like
Where were we
No,
about
what
your
they-
American flag shorts from?
we had American flag shorts.
Yeah.
There's a lot that was in. I was in volleyball shoes.
Yes, you were.
I was in volleyball shoes, a big T-shirt. I remember I was teaching a level 1 at a fire academy,
Yeah.
and Bergner was there. I wasn't teaching; I was filming it. And
You
they
did
brought
a lot of media. Stuff
yeah,
back
they
then.
brought me outside, and they were like, "Hey, Berg's gonna teach you the snatch and the clean and jerk." I was like, "Okay." And then so he walks out and he just gives me a PVC pipe, and we went through that. And I had these shorts that were like down to my shin, and they were red, white, and blue. They were those ones, but they were like patterned all weird.
Yeah.
And that was like the only lifting video
Yeah.
to like teach the basics that
Yeah.
existed at that time. It was
So you could teach it, but then you had people throwing around a barbell, and you had no idea.
And you're
No
like,
You
idea
knew it
what's
was
happening.
wrong. You're like, that looks terrible. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but
Don't do that.
here, do it like this, and then you just show them more. No, more like this.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I didn't know what I was doing.
yeah.
Right.
I look at some of those videos and it's like, wow.
Oh, dude.
I remember doing Elizabeth for the first time, and like I thought it had to be squat cleans because it said cleans, you know. So I'm doing squat cleans with it the whole time, and get 135 shooting me out the back. Like, yeah,
Like
But you're only
300
145 pounds.
but I was
at
only
the time, so-
135
Yeah,
pounds, so it makes sense. It was body weight.
So
Give
you're
or take.
you're coaching all day at CrossFit Atlanta. You're showing up and like helping out at level 1s. They tell
Yeah.
you to go and do the level 2, and this is the old school level 2 where they're not really developing you; they're testing you. Correct?
They're testing you, so
Yep.
you're running groups and that kind of stuff. I had multiple trainers at the time evaluating me, so it was hard, man. It was,
How'd you do in that? Did you pass?
the
first go?
First go, I did not pass.
Okay.
With that one, but actually, here's the thing. I don't know if it was a pass the first time. I think you had to do multiple level 2s during that time.
It was like they were like internship things. They
Yeah,
were
it was
weird.
it was an internship. It wasn't even like the
level 2 where you had to
Wasn't
get
even
tested.
that
Oh,
one.
it was just like you showed up.
difference.
Was it you show up at level 1 for a second time,
Yes.
and then you help coach the groups?
Yes.
That's exactly what
Okay.
it was.
All right. It was
That's
even
what it was.
pre-level 2. Level 2.
Pre-level 2. And I have a story
Yeah.
for that one
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
have time. But,
Yeah.
So I just kind of showed up and coached like the group, like the
Yeah, yeah.
legit group at the level 1.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did 2 of those, and then I remember, I think it was Nicole came up and she was like, "Hey, we need to create a kind of an East Coast group. You know, would you like to be on staff? Essentially, like get paid to do this," which never even.
Yeah. You just
I
like
had
I want to be
no-
a part of this.
Just want to be a part of it. The thought that I could get paid to do it never crossed my mind. So I was like, hell yeah, it's amazing. I can get paid to do this.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting the first paycheck and just being like, wow.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe I'm
made
getting
it.
paid
I
to
made
do
it. I would do
well,
this.
literally, like, yeah, it was just like, man, you know, I would have done it for free for much longer. And
Much
the,
longer.
the fact
I
that
think
I worked
that's-
for a full year for free, filming it. They paid for my food and then flights, and I was like, "This is the best gig of all time."
one of
Are
my
you
very
kidding me?
first, like I got hired on, and I think like my second gig they offered to send me to Sweden, and I didn't have a passport, and it was like in 10 days, and I had to spend more money to get an expedited passport than I got paid to go and do it. But I was like, I am
Stoked.
one, not saying no, and number two, I'm not taking like
Oh, yeah.
missing out on this opportunity. So I get it, right?
Man, that stuff, those days were, yeah, it was
A
great.
blast.
But yeah. So then on staff,
And so you got on staff, you kept coaching in Atlanta, is that right?
yeah.
And then you
yeah.
brought Chuck in.
And then we brought Chuck in.
Okay.
Chuck was, you know, top coach where he was and doing a lot of CrossFit. He's been to, at that point, Chuck had been to 27 level. Chuck had probably been to more level 1s than he's actually could know. But seriously,
Now they had
he
600
participated as a participant. I want to say 4 level 1s.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I want to say
At
4
least,
level 1s.
probably.
So he was hooked, man, and he just was learning, and he was in it, and he loved the community. He was Chuck. He's Chuck. He's still Chuck back then.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, do you think there's an opportunity? And it was, Chuck was Chuck, but even with Chuck, you know, it was the same conversation that we have with everybody, where it's like,
I don't really know. There was no formal process. It's like I don't really know
Yeah,
how to help you
like
do this.
I
keep
think you-
showing up, but I'm afraid that I'm not going to
right,
tell
I'm like,
somebody something. 'cause-
right. I don't want to promise you the world. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, maybe there's an opportunity. Maybe I think you should go for it.
Yeah, whatever
And,
that means.
And I think it was enough for him to be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then Chuck was for it. You know, like,
Yeah,
Chuck,
yeah.
Just an amazing staff member, flow master. You know, just
And
Chuck.
and how long were you both coaching, like consistently at CrossFit Atlanta and on staff? Because at some point you pretty much transitioned to primarily doing seminars. Is that right?
Yeah, I coached at CrossFit Atlanta. Just like what I coached and how I coached changed over the years. So I left CrossFit Atlanta because I moved across the country in 2014. But even at that point, I ran the like foundations classes. So one of the things I really love to do as my coaching journey like continued on was coaching the newest of the new people.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they were like blank slates. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It was,
I'm with you.
You know what? And it was like, there were a couple of reasons. One, even back then, they walked in super nervous. So you kind of had to you had to have this personal component with them, right? They're nervous. You had to kind of break that barrier down, get them comfortable. You were able to celebrate the most amazing things with these people.
But they were the most basic things too.
Well, it wasn't
Which is
like
the
a
best.
muscle up.
But
No,
it was
it-
crazy. In
it was
2
the best.
sessions, you can take them from like having no clue of what they're doing to moving pretty well,
Yeah.
right? And in
Yeah.
like 2 workouts, like it's same thing. Like somebody brand new, it's like they do 10 air squats, they're out of breath, they need to sit down on the first one. Then by the 3rd time they're in there, it's like they do 3 sets of 20 reps or something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, being able to celebrate those victories with them and see the change take place.
Yeah.
You know, you had someone who's like, I can't do this. I don't know if I want to be in that class. You bring them through this foundations. And one of the other things we would do is we kind of walk them into the class with them. Like, hey, I'm here with you, right? And then I'll set you free. And like, just to see them be a part of the group and have that confidence was always amazing to me.
We often talked about the value in your development as a coach by working with those people. Tell us about like like, what was that like for you? It's one thing to be able to have the connection personally to make somebody feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But oftentimes these people, they're a blank slate, so they have no idea what they're doing. So it can be challenging to figure out how to get them in the right positions and do so consistently.
Patience, right? You learn patience. Like with coaching, there's, I mean, you learn to balance a lot of things. Patience, you got to be empathetic, but you still have to push them in some way, right? Because, you're dealing with people that have never done this. They're nervous, they're self-conscious. The last thing they want to do is sit there for an hour and keep trying. Like, a lot of times they're like, it's when you come into a CrossFit gym, never done any type of fitness in your life.
Yeah.
And then you're in your head, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because you're being coached. Somebody's telling you you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell you how to do it right, whatever it is. Like, a lot of times it's just, I'm sure in their heads, they're like, I don't want to do this. I want to leave right now. I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's your job to, like, I'm going to be empathetic with you. I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong, but tell you what you're doing right. I'm going to show, like, that whole part of that process, that development. I'll tell you what, it's like being a dad. I mean, it really is, like, the level of patience you need to be a parent and be able to, like, celebrate victories with your kid, but also tell them when they're doing something wrong. And, like, when they do something wrong, to be able to, hey, you're doing this wrong, but to be able to forget about it and then quickly be positive again. Like, those are the types of things you kind of have to do as a coach.
Totally. Are you a CrossFit coach who's feeling stuck in their development? You're not alone. Many coaches lack good guidance when it comes to how to develop as a coach. They either don't have strong examples they find themselves around, they may lack support from their gym owner, and they just feel unprepared going into their next credential. That's why we made the Knowledge Pro, to fill that gap. It's a mentorship program built for coaches like you. It uses the Knowledge Daily, our comprehensive video library, as well as extra content that we put directly into the Knowledge Pro on our live weekly calls twice a week to mentor you and get you to the next level of development. We've got progressions, we've got scales, we've got one-off tips and tricks, we've got full coached classes by level 4 coaches so you can see an example of what it means to do this job well. All of that will also be walked through each week on those live calls, so that you have a soundboard to bounce off of and a group of coaches looking to be better to help support you in your endeavors. Coaching isn't just knowing what to do, it's also knowing how to do it. And that takes 2 things. 1, an example, and 2, practice. Practice is on your end, you got to go out there and do it. We can help provide that example and the support with the Knowledge Pro. If you want to know more, click the link below and give the Knowledge Pro a shot. I look forward to seeing you on one of the next calls.
I was listening to something recently that was talking about levels of communication.
Yeah.
And it has, like, you've got what you say.
Yeah.
You've got kind of what you mean, like what's the meaning behind that and what's going on there. Or, sorry, what you say, how you say it.
Yeah.
So what you say, how you say it, and then what you actually want from what's going on.
Yeah.
And then at the very bottom of it was like how confident you are in what you're doing.
Right.
And so depending on your proficiency of what you're doing, you're either going to have all these bases covered or you're going to just be at one of them.
Yeah.
So, like, I find this development as a coach, it kind of starts with just, like, you're just saying the things. You're just doing the stuff. You're like, yep, here we go. We're going this. We're saying these things. But, like, the sooner you can get to those lower levels of, like, how confident you are in what you're saying, which comes with education and knowledge, which is what we're talking about.
Yep.
But then, like, the layer below it is, like, you've got what you say, and then it below it is kind of like, what was it? I just said it. What you say, how you say it. How you say it. So, like, you can just say the words. And we were talking about this with Andy Hendel. You can't just say the words. You have to say it in a way that they can hear it. And then it's like, okay, so you try these things and you're
say it in a way they can hear it, and you have to be able to read the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody, and that's another thing this is where you're going. You learn as a coach is, like, you can't coach everybody the same way.
No.
You know what I mean? You can't say things to everybody the same way.
Totally.
You have to be able to meet them where they are. You have to be able to communicate with them the way that they can receive it best. You know what I mean?
That's why I love on-ramps. That's why I love new people, because you're forced to be like, that didn't work.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, oh no. And then you have to go, why didn't that work? Is it the wrong word?
Yeah.
And I think what I found from this is, like, you're able to accomplish so much more by doing less. And what I found is, like, you learn the words and I want to say the words, and it's all the stuff that we read and learned and heard at the seminar, which was way too overwhelming for anybody brand new, especially that's terrified to be in there. And it's like the more of those you do, the more you're like, oh, I need to say as little as possible and just have them do it or show it. And it's like the more simple I can make my teaching, oddly enough, the more effective it is, especially with these new folks. And then you start taking that and applying it to your more advanced athletes, and you're like, holy crap, this works with everybody.
That was a lesson that I tried to teach over and over again at level 2s. Was like, you need to be so simple with what you say that even you think it's not going to work. You're like, there's no way this is going to work.
Yes.
And like, it's for the most part, yes, there are the outliers that want a little bit more. But for the most part, it's that level of simplicity that's like, oh, that's what you mean? You know what I mean? Like that's.
But I think the irony of that is, in order to be simple, you have to understand the concept so well,
so much more
that you can be like, what is actually, what are we trying to mean here?
Well, it's the only way to be simple.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you have to know it so well, which speaks to that confidence.
Absolutely.
So like, do I have the confidence to be simple and still feel understood?
And as a newer coach, I know it's like, I want to prove myself. I'm insecure, and so I want to prove myself, and I do so by saying complex things or telling you everything about the move, and to be like, no, I know everything. Pay attention to me. But once you have the confidence, it's like, I can show you that I know everything by just getting you to do it right, and I don't have to tell it to you, right?
Totally.
Which I find fascinating is the journey of a coach. Like when you first learn, like the very first time, you have like 5 cues.
Yeah.
And they're what you heard, and they were simple.
Yeah.
So you use them, and you're ironically you're quite effective.
Yeah.
Because those 5
potentially
work for like 80% of the people who you work with.
But
you don't try to unpack it. But then as soon as you learn a little bit more, and you're like, oh, here's the why a little bit, but you're like learning more stuff, you become infinitely more complicated, and you start screwing up the simplicity that you had.
Right.
Because you've got this surface level knowledge, and you can speak to it a bit more. You're starting to hear more of the words. So you go through this period where you're like ineffective, but you think you're awesome.
But you're learning.
But you're learning. But my favorite part there is because you're more educated than when you started, so you're more confident, but you're like, I think I'm awesome. I think I figured this out.
Yeah.
But then the outcomes of what's happening, if you're paying attention to them, weren't as good as if you actually played it in the beginning.
Right.
And then you break through that, and you're like, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to these basics, but you learn, and you're like, okay, well, I know some, like I've internalized the outcome of some of these events.
Yeah.
And then you go back to being simple. It's like, it's such a fun.
It's an interesting journey.
And it's got to be a cool dynamic too, because you're now back at CrossFit Atlanta coaching the on-ramps, but then you are on seminar staff, and you've probably moved into a leadership position. You're teaching level 2s where you're working with other trainers, trying to get them to simplify it, and you're helping to develop all the new knuckleheads that you brought onto staff, right? And so figuring out how to introduce that new person, but then also coach and train like higher level coaches. Like what was that like at the time?
Oh, wow. You know, I gotta say, like, it's all similar. It all kind of, I think, it all kind of goes the same way, right? It's all about being simple with everybody.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that's really helped me out with all those things. And it's pretty funny because we always had this conversation. People would always ask me, like, did my time in academia, the degrees I was able to get, actually help with my coaching? And I think, like, when we think about what we're seeing here, it did set that process up really well for me. Which was the way that I learned, like, the most in-depth concepts the best in any degree that I've ever gotten, is that I went in there, I learned it as much as I could, and then I would write it over and over again as simple as possible.
Right?
It was like, and then who can I explain it to? I knew I got it when I can explain it to somebody in very simple terms who was not studying it, and they kind of got it.
Yeah.
And like, I would do these study sessions with some friends, and I would start to try to teach them what the professor was teaching, right? But I would try, like, can I teach this to you? Can I explain it to you in such a way where you're like, oh, that's what it means, right?
And I'm sure with all your schooling, you had examples of that as professors as well, right? Where it's like you had the one professors that would make it really simple and you'd learn everything really easy, and then the other ones that'd be like, I didn't think this subject was that tough, and you're making it more confusing than A, right?
I had a professor that taught bioenergetics by drawing an alien on the board. But when he was done, you were like, oh shit, I got it. I don't remember the details of it, but I remember I'm watching him draw this alien, and I'm like, man, we're in bioenergetics. Like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know if that answered your questions. I'm kind of trying to think back to, like, the complexity, if there was any, of, like, going from gym and working with brand new people and then trying to develop
Probably
staff.
a pretty organic process for you.
Yeah, but I think the process, stays relatively the same. People come into staff, right? They, gosh, I don't, they think they know a lot. I mean, I
Some
don't
of them
know.
do. Some of them are
You know,
somewhat humble, kind of, right?
They think they know a lot, and well, you know what? They made it in the staff, right? So they're like, man, I kind of feel like I know a lot. And then they realize they don't know a lot.
Yeah.
They know nothing.
Right.
And you gotta have to teach them really how to coach. But the great thing about, and I'm sure staff is the same. I haven't taught a seminar since maybe 2018. But the great thing was the people who came up had a certain character
They wanted it.
to them.
And wanted
They
to
work-
learn.
Well, and you knew whatever was missing, because we all had something missing. We could develop that, but they were the trainers we needed to be there. I can teach you how to see better. I can teach, and it was. I mean, and I think the best, for me, if I were to self-evaluate my strength as a coach, and it's kind of what we're going through in this whole conversation, was teaching. It was always teaching for me. It was I always tried to make it as simple as possible, and it didn't matter if I was coaching something a coach on how to, layer points of performance in the air squat in the middle of a group, or having somebody actually do the air squat as a brand new person. It was being simple, breaking things down in such a way that it was very easy for them to understand.
Yeah, and you did that in your lectures. I mean, we worked together 80% of our
in
seminars
lectures.
together. And when I came on, it was at a time where there was 5, 6, 7 trainers almost every seminar, and you often were floating. And because I would be a new trainer, you were always watching my group. And one, it was nerve-wracking, but I was like, I'm going to do this one, and he's not going to give me any feedback. And we'd finish the thing, we'd have a break, and I'd come up to Mike, and I'd always ask, because I wanted feedback, and I wanted to get better, and I'd be like, hey, what do you got for me? But I also deep down wanted him to go, nothing, I was really, really good. And he would always do this thing, and he'd be like, yeah, I got something. And I'd be like, dang it. And then we'd go and talk, but you always made it really, really simple and really, really actionable. So I think, to your point, taking this complex thing and making it simple and delivering it, whether it's with your brand new athletes or us brand new trainers, or even as I got more advanced and at level 2. So that was awesome.
It was my favorite part of lectures too. Yeah. My favorite part of lectures was the same thing, we had things we had to hit, but it was hitting those things and then trying to give the examples that were just so simple. Dang simple. People were like, oh, okay.
I do that. My favorite one right now is when I do fitness.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you guys, we've got work capacity across broad time modal domains. What's work capacity? Fucking blank stares.
Yeah.
It's our ability to output power.
Yeah.
Across
Still
any
blank
time
stares.
frame. Yeah. Well, remember that? Remember that thing that we talked about? Right. Across any time frame and any activity. And they're like, okay, let's make it even more simple. Can we do whatever we want for however long we want at whatever level that we want?
Right.
So your fitness is to be able to do whatever you want at however long you want at whatever level that you want. Are we understanding this?
And they're like,
oh, okay. So
that's what you mean.
And
then because if you just say work capacity across broad time,
dude, it'd be like me at my level when I'll be like, yep, that's
absolutely.
it.
Capacity.
In my head, I'm like, that sounds right.
That's definitely
I don't know what he means,
Yeah.
but that sounds right.
When I first 8 seminars I went to, I switched what is CrossFit and what is fitness. In my head, I was just like, yeah, CrossFit, work capacity across broad time modal domains. And I'm like, that's the definition for fitness. I'm like, son of a gun!
Same difference.
Back in the day, they never wrote it out on the board. It was always just the abbreviation.
Oh my, CAMD or whatever.
And CFVM, blah blah blah. And I was always like, I don't understand this.
But it sounds so good.
Yeah. So where are you at right now? So you've stopped doing seminars in 2018. You now work for CrossFit Medical. Talk about what you just launched.
I don't work. I don't work for them.
No, sorry. You
built
built that.
You helped build
constructed it.
Yep. Work for CrossFit. Work in the health side of things. So senior manager of health education. So still, in some way, educating. Education looks a little bit different now than it did back then, right? So, the biggest thing that we've done over the years, this past year, was launching the Medical Society. So it's taken a year to kind of figure this whole thing out. Launched early June. A lot of goals with it. With this one overarching goal, there's it's like training for a race and having B races and C races, right? The race we're going after is creating health homes out of affiliates, right? You go into affiliate because this is where the actual behaviors you need to be healthy happen, and the support structures there to maintain those behaviors, right? And like that's the, I'm going to go off on tangents, but that's the part that you cannot replicate our community. Right. You can maybe throw some movements together and say, this is like a CrossFit workout, or we do Fran at my gym.
Yeah.
And you're actually doing
we do
CrossFit.
Yeah.
We do Fran at this gym, right?
Yeah.
And, we'll tell you to eat whole foods and all this stuff. But, the community part has been people have tried to replicate that in other organizations, but it grew organically out of CrossFit. It wasn't something that we necessarily were like, we're going to try to do this.
Yeah.
It happened. And now it's there, right? And it happens on a very global level, and it happens in a very a small level in the affiliate. And it's that affiliate level where the magic happens. The magic happens here too, but the affiliate levels where the magic really happens.
Where lives are changed.
They're changed, and
They're held
most of those
accountable.
people have no idea what's going on out here. All they know is who's in their 5 a.m. class, who their coaches are, who they see at the Murph events that they have there,
what the culture is, how scaling works.
And they see
people making better nutritional choices.
And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So you go in there and you're like, okay, this workout was pretty cool. Okay, I'm learning. Yeah, this is fun. And then you see somebody, and that person is, they're a couple of years older than you, but way better shape. But you see yourself in them a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, right? I can be this person. What are they doing? They're showing up here 4 days a week, right?
Yep.
What are they eating? Well, he talks about sleep a lot. Goes to bed at 10 a.m. Prioritizes recovery, and and all these different things, and you're like, this is what I want to do, and you start to act like these people, and you start to be part of this crew and this tribe and this community, and that's how we keep it. That's the sticky component, and then with that, you get physically healthier, you get emotionally healthier, you get mentally healthier. We see these changes take place in the affiliate, so we want people to be there because that's how we create health. Now, we also want to create this large directory of healthcare professionals and physicians, because not everybody is going to be in this lateral move to where I'm not sick yet, I'm just going to go in the affiliate. Some people are sick, right? And their gatekeepers, who they're going to see first, are healthcare professionals or physicians, right? So we want them to be able to say, hey, we have this relationship with this affiliate. Maybe there is a need for pharmaceuticals or medicine, but while you're taking these things, you need to be here and making these changes with this group, with this community, and it's going to stick. Right? Those are the types of things. And then there's a lot more where we'll be launching soon a platform where, and I say we, so I'm not launching this, they are, the medical society is launching it, but where members can get blood panels, they can get their metabolic panel, right? And they can get it, and it's going to be, the prices will be amazing. And they can get it, and they can bring it to their doctor, whoever they use. They don't have to go, right? Or they can just keep it for themselves and say, okay, here's what I have.
Yeah.
Or they can find a healthcare professional physician in the directory that says, hey, I opt in. I can read these for you. I understand what you're doing in the affiliate. I can give you some level of recommendations that you can bring back. If you want me to, right, because there's HIPAA and all that stuff, they can have discussions with coaches. You can start to create this team, this health team, to really push people forward in the affiliate. And what ends up happening is people that end up getting our age, tracking your health markers becomes just as important as
your workouts and all the rest of the stuff.
Right? It just does. I do want to know. I'll tell you, interesting. I got poison oak, I think 2 years ago now, and then when I got it, something happened. I had a terrible reaction to it. My resting heart rate jumped up 10 beats, and it took 2 years to go back down to normal.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I tracked those things, and I was like, man, so it was alarming to me because a 10 beat.
It's huge.
It's huge.
And especially because your heart rate's probably so low that it's such a huge percentage, right?
It's a huge percentage, and it's telling of something happened in your heart. It's a big, it could be a big deal. It could be a sign of an underlying condition, right? But how do you know that shit?
If you're not tracking the data, you don't know that. You don't
right?
see the difference right there, right?
If you're not tracking it. And so the same thing could be said for, your resting insulin, resting blood glucose, A1Cs, C-reaction proteins, all those things should be, how often, depends on the marker.
Yeah.
Heart rate more.
Person.
Right? Yeah. Heart rate more. You know, maybe if you're in relatively good health, a full panel once or twice a year, just so you're making sure that you're doing the right things.
I think what's interesting is there's layers to this. Is like the program's so effective that if you just come in and do it, it's gonna work. Like it's gonna do the things that we want it to do. Things should be heading in the right direction. But then there's all the intangibles we just talked about, and those things will happen organically in gyms.
Yeah.
But they happen better if they're intentional.
Yeah.
And the coaches are intentional about it. And the more you know about that.
Yeah.
Same thing with the health markers. As long as you're tracking this stuff, they should be going the right direction. But there could be outside factors, and there also could be genetic things, and there also could be stuff going on.
Those are the things.
So, but it's like, it's layers. It's like, where are you at? And I think what the beauty of that is just like anything else, you want to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
So if someone's ready to full bore, jump in, dive into blood panels, you do that whole thing.
Totally.
But a lot of people need that surface level of like, to just come in and have a fun little session with your friends.
Yep.
But we as coaches need to be intentional with that, of like, we need to know all of it. We need to have everything and where we can go, how we can involve the medical society, how we know that stuff.
Totally.
But then just give them like the tip of it.
Yeah.
And then be like, yeah, just come in and do some squats and some pull-ups.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, what's your lifestyle like? Oh, how you eating?
Yeah.
Oh, what's your blood planning like? What's
Yeah.
your sleep like? What's your relationships like? And like,
Right.
that happens so organically, but we can be intentional with it. And I think that's what we're trying to do with all of like this coaching development and mindset and mentality. And
That
it's like,
whole process is improving somebody's health.
yeah,
That whole process.
everything.
It's not just the health mark. That
Yeah.
whole process.
Yeah.
You know.
It's so great. It's so fun.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
what we need people like you who are in the weeds of like unpacking what's special about like these pieces and creating systems that we can then rely on.
Connect the dots, right?
And then connect the dots.
Better educate us as coaches
Right.
and affiliate owners and all the rest of that too.
Well, and that's where I want the education to go. Like I wrote this article, and it was like reflecting back over the last 18 years of CrossFit, or however long it's been, right? And I started thinking about it. It all happened because, you know, we want more people who have chronic disease to get into affiliates, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, how do we coach these people? So these people come in, they've never done anything like this. Not only have they never done anything like this, they actually have a condition, right? So they're nervous, they're scared, maybe their doctors tell them to do this, they come in, how do we coach them? So I started making this reflection of my journey to where I am. I'm like thinking about in my 20s, and I'm like, man, it was just about working out 5 times a day, beating this person and doing this.
Hell yeah, it was.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then like to the point where I am now, where CrossFit has become, well, it is like it's tracking health markers. It's understanding how well I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
It's how I eat, what I drink, how I drink, you know, those types of things. It's a support system. It's when things happen that have been pretty terrible in my life. It's the people that were around me to support me and move me forward. And it kind of sparked this idea, and I wrote this article called "What CrossFit Is to Me," and it kind of broke all this down. I'm like, this is what we need to educate.
Yeah.
Because if we understand what health is and what the results, the real results, all the results we can provide somebody within the walls of the affiliate, like that's how we get these people in there. That's how we keep them in there. Really find the glue to all these things. So yeah, that's where we're going. That's
And I think taking something like that and like really unpacking it and then being like, okay, here's all the levels. Now, where do people start? And then how do we get them to the next place? That's our coaching education that we'll do.
Yeah.
Which you're going to come into the knowledge and make some videos for. I'm super excited.
So-
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You'll write the articles and then we'll videofy the article. It'll be fantastic.
Let's do it. Yeah.
It's going to
Sorry.
happen.
Awesome.
Dude, we've got to...
Yeah, where can people learn more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so if you're an affiliate owner, or a coach, or just a CrossFit member, you can go to the CrossFit Medical Society. You can sign up for free.
Okay.
It's free, right? So with that, you'll have do webinars on like a quarterly basis to update with information. You get newsletters. We're doing grand rounds. The live grand rounds are just for the healthcare professionals because there's an interactive component for them to learn so they can get their CMEs. But then we'll also provide that to the community as well.
Great.
So there's this constant ongoing learning process there. But then you also have access to all the things we're going to come out with to help improve them.
Perfect.
Sweet, man.
Stoked.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude.
Very
Mike,
cool.
Appreciate it,
Thank
man.
Yeah. Thanks.
We'll get more of your story another time.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, man.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Behind the Knowledge. Now, if you want help developing your coaching and to learn from us directly, check out the Knowledge Pro. There we host live calls with our coaches every week where we discuss content together and work on skills to improve our on-the-floor coaching ability. To learn more, you can head over to besthouroftheirday.com/the knowledge. And if you found this content helpful, We're going to be releasing new episodes every week, so subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.